What's up, everybody? Welcome to Call to the Bullpen. I'm David Payne with Brad Zampar and Jimmy Miller. Let's play ball.
Bouncer down the line, Urshela, backhand, long throw, the stretch at first, out at first! 3-2. Fly, that one deep toward the wall, backing up Bay, reaching up, oh, what a catch! A spectacular grab by Bay. High fly ball to right from Peterson, hit well, Renfroe got turned around, and somehow... That was ridiculous!
This play. Throw the glove out just in case.
All right, we are back with another episode after the first 10 games of the season have gone by. And Jimmy and I got a chance to go to some ball games. Jimmy saw the Brewers and the Mets out in Milwaukee. I saw the Yankees and the Orioles match up in Baltimore. Jimmy, I wanted to ask you your first impression of a pitch clock game in person. We talked a little bit in spring training about what we thought of the pitch clock, but how do you feel after seeing it in person?
I really didn't notice all that much of a difference, honestly. The one game was 9-0 Brewers, so that game's going to be long anyway. I mean, no pitch clock can make that game under 2.5 hours. The next game was a walk-off by the Brewers. It was like a 7-6 game, I believe. So I didn't see any real low-scoring games, like any 1-2-0 games that might fall under like what we'd expect the game to be. Both games were basically, the average game, maybe probably a few minutes less than it would have been in previous years. But because of that, I really didn't notice that much of a difference. Just getting up to maybe go to the bathroom or get food or something, obviously a bit of a difference. But overall, I mean, I wasn't too upset with it. But like I said, if I go and see other games, lower scoring games, faster paced games, maybe I'll notice a bigger difference.
Yeah, I got to say the same thing when it comes to the actual on-field product. I'm not sure that I noticed much of a difference. We kind of figured that many guys weren't going to take that long to throw pitches anyways. But my biggest gripe is that I went up to go to the bathroom, which is right behind the section that I was in, and I missed a whole half inning. Men's room, no line. We're always pretty quick in and out. This isn't a ladies' room. So I went right out, right back in, and a whole half inning had gone by. So I'm going to propose a solution which is good for the fans and good for Major League Baseball, and will give us time to go pee, maybe, wait in the concessions line a little bit longer, which is going to be to add a minute to each in between innings. You get to throw in 2 more commercials, and the networks and the teams get to make a little more money on 2 more commercials, and we get a little bit of time so that at least we could go to the men's room and take a leak and come back and not miss too much action. So I'm suggesting throw another minute in there, make it like 3 minutes in between innings and whatnot. So that's first pitch clock impressions from in-person baseball. But now let's talk about the first 10 games here. Some teams that have had some rocky starts. We're going to do a little worried or not here with the chatting cage while we discuss, starting with the Mets, who are 5-5, big offseason, big spending, lots of money invested in that team. 5-5 is not the start that you want to have. Jimmy, are we worried or not?
You'll have to ask me in about 10-15 minutes when Max Scherzer takes the mound to see how he does. I'm not feeling too confident that they're facing Yu Darvish today. He's 5-0 against the Mets' career. They just can't seem to figure him out. I mean, like most other teams, obviously he's a very good pitcher, but I'd say I'm a little bit worried. We need Verlander back, and I think the news of him, I think they said he'll be back by like the last week in April, which is really good news. I'd say overall I'm a little concerned, but I mean, it's still early. Normally the Mets start off really hot and fall off, so maybe it's the opposite this year. They kind of start off a little skittish and they kind of pick it up. So I'd say I'm a little worried, but I mean, I think that they could potentially win this series, especially if they win tonight. I think whoever wins tonight could win this series.
Now, Brad, going to you, the Orioles, 4-5 start. If we're being honest, should be 5-5 if Ryan McKenna watched the ball into his glove like we were taught in Little League. But are we worried or are we not?
I'd say not worried right now. I mean, it was I wouldn't say it was a disappointment, but it also wasn't a huge underachieving. I mean, they were in pretty much every single game. It's not like they've been blown out of the water, especially with Grayson coming up and hopefully earning a right to stay in this rotation for the rest of the year or however long his innings limit is going to be. But I'd say I'm definitely not worried yet. There's plenty of baseball ahead for them, especially this coming month. Should at least finish over 500 in the month of April.
Yeah, I'm also not worried. I think that what we've seen so far has exposed some glaring holes in this team, particularly pitching, which we're addressing with Grayson coming up, hopefully, and then hopefully addressing that further at the deadline. And a left-handed power bat is a big glaring hole for this team. Got lots of guys who can do like bat to ball skills, a lot of speed on the team, but that real left-handed power threat right now, the closest thing that we have is Adley Rutschman. So I'm not worried right now. But definitely think that there are some holes that need to be filled that maybe I wasn't really thinking about at the start of the season. Of course, I was thinking about pitching, but lineup wise, at least, and bench depth wise. So the next team that we're going to talk about is going to be the Houston Astros. Started 4-6. Personally, not worried. It's early in the year, one of those things where this, the team we had ranked number 1 in power rankings. It's not like they're 2-8. 4-6 is nothing they're not going to bounce back from. The Angels have shown that even though they're 5-4, that they're not a good ball club. They're really being carried by the top 4 in that lineup. Texas, decent ball club, but I'm really not worried about Houston, especially in that division. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm not really too worried either. I mean, they are down Altuve, so I mean that's really their table setter. So I'd say, I mean, you obviously want to start off better, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're kind of like the Dodgers, where they kind of just seems like they coast until the second half. They kind of gear up and really turn it up. So I'm not concerned.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a hangover, I'm sure. They're still riding high. They wore the gold jerseys opening night, still reminiscing about the whole run last year. You got a few guys down with injuries still. You got McCullers, obviously, who's going to be a big part of what they try to do in the playoffs again. Hopefully he can stay healthy this year. But yeah, definitely not worried about them right now. It would take a lot of injuries or really bad play to be worried about the Astros.
Next team, we're going to stay in the AL West. It's going to be the Seattle Mariners. And my answer is yes, worried. And worried because I think that this team has played how they are. I think that this team, they're 4-6 right now. And I think that they're right around there, maybe not as bad as a 400 win percentage team, but I think when it's all said and done, not much better than a 500 or slightly above win percentage team. I did have them in a third wild card spot, but I'm worried about that third wild card spot that I had them down for. I think that this is pretty much the level we're going to see the Mariners stick at throughout the season, with maybe a little bit better pace.
Yeah, I think they've become so they had that narrative that they were underrated, that they're now kind of overrated. I think there's more expectation put on them. I don't think they're going to live up to that, kind of like you were saying. I'd say maybe their cap is like 86 wins, maybe 87. But yeah, I could totally see them finishing with no more than, honestly, 80 and 82. I would not be too surprised. So I'd say I'm a little worried about them for sure.
Yeah, I've kind of been the down guy on the Mariners going back for a while now. And what it kind of came down to is Julio was doing all these great things, and they're obviously playing well. But I mean, we see it in that own division when it was just Trout and Ohtani was there. One great player cannot carry your entire team if you have a team around you that just simply isn't good enough to do that. And I mean, they have. I feel like they have more of a team of names right now than of players that can really excel and give the contributions that they need up and down that lineup and in that bullpen. And that pitching staff is I mean, it's got the depth, but you got Luis Castillo, but Robbie Ray's out for 2 months. It could get dark in Seattle again very quick.
Next, we're going to the NL East with the Philadelphia Phillies starting 3-6, and sound the alarm. Code red. Absolutely worried. I had this team winning the division. That was before Rhys Hoskins went down. So right there, just based off that, worried. Nola and Wheeler, who are supposed to be anchoring that rotation, look like dog water. I am very, very concerned about the Phillies, and playing into that is how good the Atlanta Braves look too. The Mets, Jimmy said, slightly concerned, but not too worried. So you've got 2 teams ahead of them. The Braves look fantastic. The Mets are a good team. I'm sounding the 5-alarm fire right now on the Philadelphia Phillies. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I kind of thought about it at the start of the year when I saw that Wheeler had like a .15 ERA in spring training. Obviously, you don't put too much stock in the spring training, but guy that caliber, you'd expect him to dominate, especially in the WBC spring training, and he's just been bad. So yeah, I'd say I'm definitely worried about him. I mean, obviously, like we said, even if Harper comes back, that's just one guy he's going to help, but he's not going to carry that team to a division championship or a pennant again. So I am worried about them.
The typical Dave Dombrowski team. He just fills every single team on the offense. He just completely forgets about that bullpen. They lead baseball in blown saves already. Sir Anthony Dominguez looks god awful, and then who's the other guy? Craig Kimball, god awful. Just a lot. There's a lot of questions in that pen, but at least they're showing off their rings this weekend, so that should be fun.
They even gave the Fanatic a ring, which was kind of fun. But next, we're going to Brad's pick to run away with the NL Central, the St. Louis Cardinals, with a 3-6 start. I am worried. I'm worried less because of how the Cardinals played, because I do think that they're going to bounce back pretty decently. I don't think that they're as great as Brad made them out to sound, possibly winning 100 games, but I think that they'll be a over 500, high 80s win team. But I'm mainly concerned because the Milwaukee Brewers look incredible, which Jimmy is, I'm sure, going to touch on. But the Brewers look fantastic, and that's really their biggest competition within the division. And there's an old saying that you can't win a division in April, but you can lose a division in April. And if things continue to go the way that they have here in April, the Cardinals might dig themselves a hole that they can't make their way out of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm worried or not, because I was not too high in the Cardinals to start off with. I had the Brewers winning that division. That's looking really good right now. And just going to Milwaukee and seeing these young guys, you got Bryce Terang, Joey Weimer, Garrett Mitchell, those young guys that are just coming out of nowhere. I mean, any of those three guys would have been a great Rookie of the Year pick. And if nobody's seen the freshman documentary on YouTube yet, that short series for the Brewers, I'd highly recommend it. It kind of talks about those young guys I just touched on that went off against the Mets. So I think that, they're just going to keep running away with that division. I think they could win 100 games. The Cardinals are an older team, which was kind of my concern with them to start the year. That's why I didn't have them winning that division. Kind of an older team. They do have younger guys, but that pitching staff is not going to carry them to a division crown.
No, I'd say I'm slightly worried on them, but at the same time, really not, because I feel like this team is just the way that they're built. They have so much depth on this team, and I'm not going to put a whole bunch of stock into this team getting out to a 3-6 start. I mean, there's going to be other 6, 7, 8 game stretches during the year where they go 6-2, or they go 6-1, or something like that. So I feel like it'll even out. The Brewers are going to have those stretches too. I don't think that they're this amazing team that is going to go out there unless this three-headed staff is going to do what they do all year, because at that point can't really help anything. But I'm worried to a little extent, but still confident in them taking the division.
And our final team for worried or not is going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers with a 5-5 start. You've got the D-backs and Padres ahead of them looking good, but only by a game. To me, a little bit worried, but not too worried. I think that they're still a great ball club, but I think it's kind of what we talked about in our predictions, that they're no longer like this juggernaut, this unbeatable team, this, talk about breaking the win record team. Like, this is a team that's relying on some typically not so good guys to be pretty good. And right now they're playing at a 500 level. I think they'll be better than that. I do think at the end of the day, it's between them and the Padres for the division. As good as Arizona looks, I think that they're a good up-and-coming ball club, but a third-place team. But slightly worried about the Dodgers, but not to, an extent that I could rant and rave about.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about them at all, honestly. I mean, we've seen this before from them. I mean, even when they had those star guys like Turner, when Walker Buehler was healthy, right? They just kind of coast to start the year. I don't really recall them ever. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong, but just going off to start the year, right? They always kind of seem like they're kind of coasting, and then they really turn it up into overdrive, second half of the year. So I'd say maybe the slightest bit worried because they have guys like Michael Grove in that rotation that you otherwise wouldn't expect them to. And they just lost 3 or 4 to the Diamondbacks, but I'm not really that worried about them. I think they're definitely at least a wild card team.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting year for the Dodgers because they don't really have a lot of this money on the books. They're going to be able to go out and get whoever they want, whether that's Otani or if Soto doesn't end up signing an extension, they would have no problem bringing in either of those players financially. These young guys that they're rostering right now is kind of like their grace period, I feel like, because all these major league teams are going to see what these players are doing at the major league level while they're going to eventually look to trade for them because I feel like the Dodgers are always that team that come in and pry stars away from other teams. That's just the way that they are. That's the way that they're built. I feel like they're going to be okay. They'll probably win 90 plus. I don't know if they'll get to that upper echelon, but I think you could still lock them in for 90 plus wins.
All right. Now, after 10 games, we're playing games 11 today. Jimmy, who are our MLB players of the week?
So our AL Player of the Week, he just went down. You got to give him the courtesy nod for the Player of the Week in the American League. Adam Duvall, the Red Sox. 8 games, 15 hits, 5 doubles, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 455 batting average, and a 1544 OPS. AL Pitcher of the Week, Brad's Cy Young pick, Garrett Cole, the Yankees, 2-0 in 2 starts, .73 ERA, over 12 and a third innings pitched with 19 Ks. We all know he's a big strikeout guy with just 6 hits and 5 walks, so that's a sub-1 whip. AL Rookie of the Week is kind of a guy we didn't really expect, in Oscar Colas of the White Sox. 11 hits, 306 batting average, 359 on base. NL Player of the Week, we have Brian Reynolds of the Pirates kind of going off there. I'm sure the Yankees really wish they had made that trade now to get him. Over 9 games, 15 hits, 405 average, 2 doubles, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, and a .919 slugging percentage, which is very good. You'll take that in OPS to be over 900, let alone slug. NL Pitcher of the Week, Marcus Stroman of the Cubs. Kind of a very controversial person when you think about his Twitter, but he's been dealing this year, and when he's up in confidence, he could do anything. 2-0 over 2 starts, over 12 innings pitched in total, 14 Ks, 5 hits, 6 walks given up, and a .92 WHIP. And our NL Rookie of the Week, another one of Brad's picks, Jordan Walker of the Cardinals. 9 games, 12 hits, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 8 RBI, 353 average, and a .994 OPS.
Marcus Stroman can tweet whatever he wants if he continues to pitch like this. That's what I think. But the way he's pitched the past couple of years, he should keep his mouth shut. But the way he's pitching right now, he could tweet whatever he wants, have as many characters as he wants, 240, 140, whatever it is. But now we're going to everybody's favorite segment, Umpires of the Week. Brad, who do we got?
So they both occurred yesterday, or Saturday, my mistake, Saturday, which was interesting because I had a few that were like locked in. I was going to choose between for like during the whole season. And then Sunday morning, I see these come out and I'm like, whoa, like these are the 2 takers for the awards this week. So our best umpire of the week was Chad Fairchild. He did the game Saturday in Atlanta with the Padres defeating the Braves 4-1. His overall accuracy for the day was 99%, consistency 94, called ball 99, and called strike 98. Overall factor for the day was .02 runs for San Diego, and Scorecards created a new little graphic on their graphic, which is relative accuracy, and it's what percentage they are above of the average umpire score. So Fairchild was a plus 3.7% above expected, which means he made 6.7 more correct calls than the average umpire. Our worst umpire was Jerry Lane. He did the game Saturday as well in Milwaukee with the Cardinals defeating them 6-0. Overall accuracy 90%, consistency 90%, called ball accuracy 96, and his called strike was really low at 77%. Relative accuracy was negative 4.6%, 7.6 fewer correct calls than the average umpire, and he was plus 0.84 runs for Milwaukee.
To like the average person, you might hear like 90% and think like, oh, dang, that's good. Like if you got a 90% on like a test in school, like that's fantastic. But when you hear like these other kind of stats, like relative accuracy and the run favor, that kind of really puts things in perspective. But do you have right in front of you what the average accuracy for called ball and called strike is?
called ball accuracy 97% and called strike accuracy 88%.
Yeah, so you kind of, when you're, 7% below the average, that 90% doesn't sound all that great. Sticking with you now, and we're heading down to the farm for our minor league players of the week.
Yeah, so last year I was really hitter heavy. So I'm gonna try to get 2 pitchers and 2 hitters across every week. So it's AAA this week. It's gonna be one of my first guys that I've put into awards where they've had a major league debut already, and it's gonna be Chase Silseth. He's a starting pitcher for the Salt Lake Bees. He's 22 years old. Angels number 4 prospect. He was an 11th rounder in the 2021 MLB draft out of the University of Arizona. He was also the first pitcher in that entire class to make the major leagues, which he did last year. And he was part of the infamous 20 pitcher class the Angels had during that year. So it's kind of cool for him to be the guy who went up and did all that. He had 2 starts, went 11 innings, 3 hits, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts, didn't allow an earned run, .55 whip, and he picked up 2 wins. Double A was Alika Williams. He's a shortstop for the Montgomery Biscuits, 24 years old, Rays number 30 prospect. Was a first rounder in 2020, 37th overall out of ASU. He went from high A all the way up to Triple A last year. They're kind of trying to push him along. He went 5 for 11, scored 3 runs, doubled twice, homered once, drove in 4, had a 900 slug and a 1400 OPS. High A was Juan Mercedes. He's a starting pitcher for the Everett Aqua Sox, 23 years old, not inside the Mariners' top 30. They signed him from the Dominican Republic in 2017, and he's been in their system since then. He's really become a big strikeout pitcher, 12.5 and 10.1 Ks per 9 the last couple years. He actually threw a no-hitter last year for the Aqua Sox while he was down there in 7 innings, but no-hitter. He went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, allowed 1 run, no walks, and struck out 9. Low A, Josh Hood. He's a second baseman, third baseman for the Modesto Nuts, 22 years old. Mariners 28th prospect, drafted in the 20th round in 2021 by the Red Sox out of University of Pennsylvania, but he ended up transferring to North Carolina State, where he became a 6th-round pick in this last year's draft. He's entering his first full year of pro ball, and so this past week he was 6 for 15, doubled once, homered once, drove in 7, stole 2 bags, had almost a 500 on-base percentage, and had an 1137 OPS.
I'm going to throw out a quadruple A player of the week, and that's going to be Joe Adell. Quadruple A being players who are disgusting in Triple A, but couldn't hit a beach ball at the major league level. Joe Adell.
I wanted to give Joe Adell the rookie of the week, but I just couldn't. He's had way too much time in the majors. I like to keep these for the guys who haven't really gotten a shot yet in the majors. So that's kind of why I didn't give him the award.
That's what I'm saying. We're carving out a special section just for guys like him, guys like Rusney Castillo, but the Red Sox AAA legend, $80 million man. So we're giving a shout out to Joe Adell there for continuing to tear AAA apart. And how about Fernando Tatis Jr. putting together a heck of a week, getting a pitcher to cry on Twitter down there in the minor leagues. So shout out Tatis. Can't wait to have him back at the MLB level. Now we're going to our power and sour rankings for this week. So we've had a little bit longer of a time than we'll typically do. Power and sour rankings are typically a 7-day thing, but we had 10 days here, which is, I think for the start of the season, these teams, it's tough to evaluate right at the start. We're going to start on the sour side, though. These are the worst teams of the last 10 games. At number 1, we've got the Oakland Athletics, who are drawing 3,000 people to the game. They were out attendanced by 11 AAA teams. The Detroit Tigers are at number 2. The Washington Nationals are number 3. These are 3 of the worst baseball teams that we've almost seen. And these teams also are the team Tampa Bay Rays on. So 4, we've got The uh, Philadelphia Phillies are at 4. The Philadelphia Phillies, we talked about losing Hoskins. We talked about their terrible start so far. The bullpen leading the league in blown saves. So the Phillies are at 4. And number 5 is the St. Louis Cardinals, who we also touched on a little bit earlier. So, 3 of the worst teams in the history of the game of baseball. And then 2 teams who are supposed to be good teams that are underperforming. Now, heading over to the power rankings side, we should mention that we look at power rankings like a kind of ranking championship contenders, not just how your last week was, because and also not just ranking division standings, because we have standings for that, and we have last 10 games for that. So we're not just ranking teams off outcomes of games, but outlook for the teams. So you guys can see 10 through 6 on our social media at CTBP Pod. But the top 5, at number 5, the New York Yankees. At number 4, the Tampa Bay Rays, with the first perfect start in a century, just about. Number 3, the Houston Astros. Number 2, the Atlanta Braves. And number 1, the San Diego Padres. The Houston Astros were the number 1 team in our first rankings. The Padres were number 2, and the Braves were number 3. So those 3 teams did a whole shift there, with the Padres jumping up to 1, Braves at 2, and the Astros falling to 3. So again, top 5 was the Yankees, Rays, Astros, Braves, Padres. You can see 6 through 10, as well as the rest of the Sour rankings on our social medias at CTBP Pod. You'll also be able to see more about the players of the week, umpires of the week, and minor league players of the week there. And we'll see you all next week with another episode.